The massive doors of the Bloodline hall stood 40 feet tall, carved from a single piece of obsidian that seemed to drink in the light from the twin suns above. Maya Chen pressed her palm against the cold surface, feeling the ancient runes pulse with a faint energy that made her teeth ache. She had traveled across 3 star systems to reach this place, following rumors and half-forgotten legends that spoke of humanity's true heritage. The Galactic Council had always taught that humans were a young species, barely worthy of notice among the elder races. They were given the scraps of territory, the dangerous frontier worlds, the assignments too risky for more valuable species. Maya had grown up believing this lie, working as a salvage pilot in the Outer Rim, where human settlements clung to life on worlds the Council deemed worthless. Everything changed when she found the artifact. It was during a routine salvage operation on a dead world in the Kepler sector. Her sensors had detected unusual energy readings from what appeared to be a crashed ship, buried under centuries of dust and debris. But when she dug it out, Maya realized it wasn't a ship at all. It was a temple, ancient beyond measure, with walls covered in symbols that seemed familiar despite being completely alien. The artifact waited in the temple's heart, a crystalline device no larger than her fist, pulsing with warm golden light. The moment Maya touched it, visions flooded her mind. She saw vast fleets of ships unlike anything in current galactic civilization. She witnessed battles that shook entire star systems. Most importantly, she saw humans, not as the weak, desperate species they were now, but as something magnificent and terrible. The visions showed her the truth. Humans weren't newcomers to the galaxy. They were the inheritors of the most powerful civilization that had ever existed. The precursors, the mysterious race that had vanished eons ago, leaving behind only ruins and legends. They were human ancestors. Not direct descendants, but something more complex, more beautiful. The precursors had seeded the galaxy with their essence, and that essence had eventually flowered into modern humanity. The artifact also showed her the Bloodline Hall, the last remaining precursor facility, hidden in the Veil Nebula where even the Council's scouts feared to venture. It was there that the truth of inheritance could be proven, where the genetic locks could be opened, where humanity could reclaim its birthright. Maya had spent her life savings hiring a ship capable of navigating the Veil's dangerous energy storms. The journey took 3 months, dodging Council patrols and space pirates alike. When she finally reached the coordinates, she found a sight that took her breath away. The Bloodline Hall wasn't just a building. It was a space station the size of a small moon, its surface covered in the same obsidian as the doors she now faced. Ancient docking bays still functioned, guiding her ship in with technologies that made current galactic engineering look like stone tools. The artificial gravity, the atmospheric processors, the energy systems, everything worked perfectly despite being millions of years old. Now she stood before the hall's entrance, artifact clutched in her trembling hand. According to the visions, she needed only to present herself and the artifact to gain entry. The hall would scan her genetic structure, confirm her heritage, and welcome her as the last heir to the precursor legacy. Maya took a deep breath and stepped forward. The doors didn't open. Instead, runes along their surface flared with angry red light. A voice spoke, not through speakers but directly into her mind, using words in a language she somehow understood despite never hearing it before. Bloodline insufficient. Genetic markers corrupted. Access denied. The words hit her like physical blows. Maya stumbled backward, clutching the artifact tighter. No, that's impossible. The visions showed me the truth. I'm human. My ancestors built this place. The voice spoke again, cold and implacable. Bloodline insufficient. Deviation from pure template detected. Access denied. Maya felt her world crumbling. She had been so certain, so sure that she was meant to be here. The artifact had called to her specifically. The visions had been so vivid, so real. How could she be wrong? She pressed both hands against the doors, feeling the obsidian's cold bite. Please, I've come so far. There has to be a mistake. Run the scan again. The red runes flared brighter. Final warning. Departure required within 1 standard hour or defensive systems will activate. Maya sank to her knees, still clutching the artifact. Hot tears ran down her cheeks as the weight of failure crushed down on her. She had given up everything for this journey. Her job, her savings, her reputation. She had endured months of hardship and danger all for nothing. The artifact in her hands pulsed weakly, its golden light dimming as if it too were disappointed. Maya looked down at it through blurred vision. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I thought I was the one you were looking for." As she knelt there in defeat, Maya became aware of another presence. Not the cold mechanical voice of the hall's systems, but something else. Something watching her with ancient eyes full of sorrow and recognition. She looked up but saw nothing except the massive doors and the empty courtyard beyond. The feeling persisted, growing stronger. It was as if something vast and old was studying her, weighing her worth by standards she couldn't understand. The sensation made her skin crawl and her heart race, but she couldn't bring herself to move. Then, just as the feeling reached its peak, it vanished. Maya was alone again with her failure and her dying hopes. She struggled to her feet, wiping away tears. The hall had rejected her, but at least she could leave with her life. Perhaps that was more than she deserved. As she turned to walk back to her ship, Maya heard something that made her freeze. It was the sound of ancient machinery awakening after eons of slumber. Deep within the hall, something was stirring. Something that had been waiting for a very long time. The obsidian doors remained closed, but somewhere in the vast station's depths, another path was opening. Maya didn't know it yet, but her rejection by the Bloodline Hall was only the beginning of her story. Maya had barely taken 10 steps toward her ship when the ground beneath her feet began to vibrate. At first, she thought it might be the hall's defensive systems preparing to eliminate her, as the voice had threatened. But the vibration wasn't violent or aggressive. It felt more like a massive heart beginning to beat after a long, dreamless sleep. The artifact in her hand suddenly blazed with renewed light, so bright that Maya had to shield her eyes. When the glow faded to a more manageable level, she saw that the golden light was pulsing in rhythm with the vibrations from deep within the station. Whatever was awakening down there, the artifact was responding to it. A new sound reached her ears. The whisper of ancient air recyclers coming online, the hum of power systems that had been dormant for millennia. Throughout the vast station, lights began to flicker on in patterns too complex for Maya to follow. It was as if the entire Bloodline Hall was coming alive. Then she heard the voice, not the cold mechanical tone that had rejected her, but something else entirely. This voice was warm, ancient, and infinitely sad. It spoke not through the hall's communication systems, but seemed to come from the very walls around her. "Child of the scattered seed," the voice said, and Maya felt a shiver run down her spine. "Why do you weep at doors that were never meant for you?" Maya spun around, looking for the source of the voice, but saw only the empty courtyard and the sealed obsidian doors. "Who's there? Show yourself." "I am here as I have always been here, watching over the inheritance until the true heir should come. I am the guardian of the final truth, and I have waited so very long to meet you." The air before Maya began to shimmer, and slowly, a figure materialized. It was humanoid in basic shape, but clearly not human. The being stood nearly 8 feet tall, with skin that seemed to be made of the same obsidian as the hall's doors. Its eyes were twin stars burning with the light of distant suns. When it moved, reality seemed to bend slightly around it, as if space itself acknowledged its presence. Maya took an involuntary step backward. "You're a precursor, a real precursor." The Guardian's expression was unreadable, but Maya sensed great sadness in its stellar gaze. "I am what remains of them, yes. The last guardian of the last hall, waiting for the day when the scattered children would return home. But you are not what the doors seek. You are something far more precious." "The hall rejected me," Maya said, her voice barely a whisper. "It said my bloodline was insufficient, that my genetic markers were corrupted." "The hall knows only what it was programmed to know," the Guardian replied, moving closer with steps that made no sound. "It seeks the pure bloodline, the direct descendants of those who built it. But such beings no longer exist in this galaxy. The last of the pure line died out eons ago, shortly after I was created to watch over their legacy." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's atmosphere. "Then there's no one left. No true heir. Child, you understand so little." The Guardian's voice carried the weight of eons. "The precursors were not your ancestors in the way you imagine. They were something far greater and far stranger. They were the gardeners of possibility, beings who could reach across time and space to plant seeds of potential in the cosmic soil." The Guardian gestured, and the air around them filled with holographic images. Maya saw the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago, young, chaotic, filled with potential but lacking direction. She watched as beings of impossible power moved between the stars, not conquering or ruling, but nurturing. They guided the evolution of countless species, helped them reach for the stars, then moved on to tend other gardens in the cosmic wilderness. They saw that their time was ending. The Guardian continued. The universe was changing, growing in ways that no longer had room for their kind of power. So they made a choice. Rather than fade into nothing, they would ensure their legacy lived on through the species they had helped nurture. The images changed, showing the precursors working on their final project. Maya watched in awe as they wove their essence into the genetic code of dozens of emerging species, creating not direct descendants but something far more complex. They created potential heirs, Maya breathed. More than that, they created the possibility of an heir. Not someone born to the legacy, but someone who could grow into it. Someone who could prove themselves worthy not through blood, but through choice and action and the content of their spirit. The Guardian's eyes focused on Maya with an intensity that made her feel transparent. The hall's doors will only open for the pure bloodline because that is all they know to look for. But I was made to watch for something else entirely. I was made to recognize the true heir when they finally came. And you, Maya Chen of the third planet of Sol System, are that heir? Maya shook her head, overwhelmed. That's impossible. I'm nobody special. I'm just a salvage pilot who got lucky with an artifact. Lucky? The Guardian's laugh was like distant thunder. Child, do you think it was chance that led you to that temple? Do you think it was coincidence that you alone could touch the artifact without being destroyed by its power? Do you imagine that luck brought you through the Veil's storms when even the galaxy's best navigators feared a venture here? The artifact in Maya's hand pulsed brighter as if responding to the Guardian's words. She looked down at it with new understanding. It was calling to me specifically. It was calling to the one person in the galaxy who carried the right combination of courage, determination, and genetic potential. You are not pure precursor bloodline, Maya. You are something they dreamed of but never lived to see, the culmination of their grand experiment. You are what they became when they chose to plant their essence in the soil of possibility rather than preserve it in the sterile halls of pure heredity. Maya felt the weight of destiny, settling on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. What does that mean? What am I supposed to do? The Guardian smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both terrible and beautiful on its obsidian features. It means you have a choice to make. The Bloodline Hall contains the accumulated knowledge and power of the precursor civilization, their technologies, their sciences, their understanding of the fundamental forces that shape reality itself. All of it waits behind those doors that will never open for you. Then how? Because there is another way, a path the precursors prepared for one such as you. But it is not a path of inheritance, Maya. It is a path of earning. You will not be given power because of who your ancestors were. You will have to prove yourself worthy of it through who you choose to become. The Guardian raised one obsidian hand, and Maya felt reality shift around them. The courtyard faded away, replaced by visions of the galaxy as it existed now. She saw human colonies struggling to survive on barren worlds. She witnessed the casual cruelty with which the Galactic Council treated her species. She observed the slow extinction of human hope and ambition under the weight of systematic oppression. Your species stands at a crossroads, the Guardian said. They can continue to accept the role they have been given, slowly fading into irrelevance and extinction. Or they can reclaim their birthright and take their place as the true inheritors of the galaxy. But that choice cannot be made for them. It must be chosen, fought for, earned through trial and sacrifice, Maya understood. The easy path, the inheritance through blood, was closed to her. But another path lay open, harder and more dangerous, but potentially leading to something far greater than mere inheritance. What must I do? She asked. The Guardian's stellar eyes seemed to look straight through Maya's soul as it considered her question. Around them, the holographic visions of the galaxy's current state continued to swirl. Images of human suffering, of potential squandered, of a proud species reduced to scavengers in their own cosmic neighborhood. The test has 3 parts, the Guardian said, its voice carrying the weight of absolute truth. Each represents a fundamental aspect of what the precursors valued most. You must prove your wisdom, your courage, and your compassion. But understand this, Maya Chen. These will not be simple challenges with clear solutions. They will test the very core of who you are and who you choose to be. Maya nodded, trying to project more confidence than she felt. Tell me what I need to do." The Guardian gestured, and the space around them shifted once more. The courtyard dissolved, replaced by what appeared to be a vast control room filled with displays showing different parts of the galaxy. Each screen showed a crisis in progress, a moment where critical decisions needed to be made. "Your first test is the trial of wisdom," the Guardian announced. "You will be presented with 3 scenarios currently unfolding in real time. In each case, you must make a choice that will affect the lives of thousands, possibly millions. But here is the challenge. You will have access to information that the participants in these scenarios do not possess. You must decide whether to intervene with that knowledge, and if so, how." The first display flickered to life, showing a human colony ship approaching what appeared to be a perfect world. Maya could see the colonists' excited faces as they prepared for landing procedures. But the display also showed something else. Deep beneath the planet's surface, ancient mining equipment left by a long-dead civilization was still active, slowly poisoning the groundwater with radioactive waste. The colony ship Horizon carries 12,000 humans seeking a new home, the Guardian explained. Their long-range sensors show a world with breathable atmosphere, abundant water, and fertile soil. They do not know about the contamination. If they land, they will have perhaps 50 years before the radiation begins to affect their children. By the time they realize the danger, it will be too late to leave. Maya studied the display, her mind racing. What are my options? You could warn them directly, but doing so would reveal technologies and knowledge they are not ready for. You could subtly sabotage their landing systems, forcing them to continue to the next system where a habitable world awaits. But that would delay their settlement by another 20 years, and their food supplies are already dangerously low. Or you could find a way to neutralize the contamination without revealing yourself. But that would require using precursor technology that might be detected by the Galactic Council. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 12,000 lives pressing down on her. Each choice had consequences, each path led to suffering for someone. She thought about the precursors and what they would have done. They were gardeners of possibility, the Guardian had said. They didn't impose solutions, they created opportunities for growth. "Show me the planet's geological structure," she said finally, "and the exact location of the mining equipment." The display zoomed in, revealing the planet's underground networks. Maya studied them carefully, looking for patterns, for possibilities. Then she saw it, a natural fault line that ran directly beneath the largest contamination source. "There," she pointed. "If I trigger a controlled seismic event along that fault line, it will collapse the ancient mining tunnels and seal the contamination source. The surface effects will be minimal, just some minor earthquakes that will register as natural tectonic activity. The colonists will be able to settle safely, and they'll never know they were in danger." The Guardian nodded approvingly. Wisdom lies not in making choices for others, but in creating conditions where they can make good choices for themselves. "You may proceed." Maya felt power flow through her, and somehow she knew how to access the station's incredibly advanced systems. She sent out invisible tendrils of force that reached across space, found the fault line, and gave it just the gentlest push needed to start a natural process. On the display, she watched as minor earthquakes shook the planet's surface while deep underground. Contaminated tunnels collapsed and sealed themselves forever. The second display activated, showing a different crisis. This time, Maya saw a human mining operation under attack by raiders. But the scenario was more complex than it first appeared. The raiders weren't random pirates. They were members of a species called the Zephyrians, whose homeworld had been strip-mined by the Galactic Council decades ago. They were attacking human operations not out of malice, but out of desperation, trying to gather resources to keep their dying civilization alive. "The miners are innocent," the Guardian said. "They know nothing of the Zephyrians' history or the Council's crimes. The Zephyrians are also innocent. They fight only to save their children from starvation. Both sides believe they are defending their families. Both sides are right. What is your choice?" Maya watched the battle unfolding, seeing the fear and determination on both sides. The humans were outgunned but well fortified. The Zephyrians were desperate but running low on ammunition. Soon the conflict would devolve into a grinding siege that would end with massive casualties on both sides and solve nothing. "I need to change the conditions of the conflict," Maya said, thinking aloud. "Neither side has complete information. The humans don't know why they're being attacked. The Zephyrians don't know that these particular humans had nothing to do with the destruction of their world. She accessed the station's communication systems, crafting a message that would appear to come from a neutral source, a passing merchant ship. The message contained detailed records of the Zephyrian genocide and evidence of the Galactic Council's cover-up. But it also included information about a rich asteroid field in an unclaimed system, resources enough to rebuild the Zephyrian civilization, without taking anything from the human miners. Maya sent the message to both sides simultaneously, then watched as understanding slowly dawned. The fighting stopped as leaders on both sides realized they had more in common than they had differences. Within hours, they were negotiating a mutual aid pact. Compassion without wisdom is mere sentiment, the Guardian observed. Wisdom without compassion is cold calculation. You have shown both. The third display showed the most complex scenario yet. A human research station had discovered something extraordinary. A cache of advanced technology that could revolutionize space travel and energy production. But they didn't realize they were being watched by Galactic Council intelligence operatives, who were preparing to seize the technology and eliminate the researchers to prevent humanity from advancing too quickly. This is your greatest challenge, the Guardian said. The technology they have found is genuinely dangerous in the wrong hands. The Council fears it because it would upset the balance of power in the galaxy. The humans who discovered it are brilliant but naive. They plan to share their findings openly, not realizing this would trigger a war that could destroy entire star systems. Maya studied the situation carefully. The research team was led by Dr. Sarah Kim, a physicist Maya had heard of but never met. Dr. Kim and her team were good people, dedicated to advancing human knowledge and improving life for their species. They had no idea they were sitting on a powder keg. The approaching council forces were led by Executor Vex, a member of the reptilian Chronari species known for ruthless efficiency. Vex had orders to secure the technology by any means necessary. If the research team cooperated, they would be relocated to a council facility and spend the rest of their lives as prisoner scientists. If they resisted, they would be eliminated. But Maya could see something neither side was aware of. The technology itself was unstable. The humans had successfully activated it, but they hadn't realized that their power source was slowly overloading. In approximately 6 hours, the entire research station would be destroyed in an explosion that would sterilize everything within 100 kilometers. I have to save them, Maya said. But if I warn them directly about the council forces, they might try to fight or run, which would only speed up the disaster. And if I warn the council about the instability, they might try to seize the technology anyway and cause an even worse explosion. Maya closed her eyes and reached out with senses she was only beginning to understand. She felt the flow of energy through the research station, traced the growing instability in the alien technology, and calculated exactly how much time they had. Then she began to work. Using the station's advanced capabilities, she created what appeared to be a cascading system failure in the research station's less critical systems. Nothing dangerous, just enough to force an evacuation. She simultaneously sent an anonymous message to Executor Vex, claiming to be a council spy, warning that the human research station was booby-trapped and would explode if approached. The result was exactly what Maya hoped, for Dr. Kim's team evacuated their research just in time, taking only their most important data. Executor Vex's forces held back, unwilling to risk the destruction of their ships. When the unstable alien technology finally overloaded, it destroyed only empty buildings and worthless equipment. The control room faded away like morning mist, replaced by something that made Maya's breath catch in her throat. She stood on what appeared to be the bridge of a massive starship, but this was no ordinary vessel. The walls were alive with flowing energy patterns, and the viewports showed not the familiar darkness of space but swirling clouds of pure possibility. The trial of courage is different from what you just experienced, the Guardian said, its voice now coming from everywhere at once. Wisdom can be tested through scenarios and simulations, but courage can only be proven through genuine risk, real danger, and the possibility of true failure. Maya turned slowly, taking in her surroundings. The ship's bridge was clearly designed for beings much larger than humans, with control surfaces that seemed to respond to thought rather than touch. At the center of the bridge stood a chair that could only be described as a throne, carved from the same obsidian as the Guardian itself. "Where are we?" she asked. "You are aboard the Eternal Vigil, the last ship of the Precursor fleet. It has been waiting here in the space between dimensions for someone worthy to claim it. But claiming it will require more than desire or even worthiness. It will require you to face your deepest fears and overcome them. The Guardian materialized beside the throne, its stellar eyes now burning with an intensity that made Maya's skin tingle. You must pilot this ship through the labyrinth of echoes, a region of twisted space-time where reality becomes fluid, and the boundaries between what is and what might have been begin to break down. At the center of the labyrinth waits something that the precursors feared above all else. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. What could frighten beings powerful enough to reshape the galaxy? Themselves, the Guardian replied simply. At the heart of the labyrinth lies the precursor who chose differently, the one who refused to accept that their time was ending, who sought to preserve their power and dominion at any cost. The shadow of what was, a being of pure ego and will, twisted by eons of isolation and rage. The viewport suddenly cleared, showing a swirling vortex of impossible colors and shapes that hurt to look at directly. Maya could feel the ship being drawn toward it, and she understood that there was no turning back now. Why do I have to face this shadow? She asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Because it represents everything the precursors could have become but chose not to be. It is the path of power without wisdom, dominion without compassion, strength without restraint. If you are truly to inherit the precursor legacy, you must prove that you will not follow that same dark path. Maya approached the throne slowly, feeling its power calling to her. The moment she sat down, the ship responded to her presence. Energy flowed through her body, connecting her to systems beyond her understanding. She could feel the Eternal Vigil's vast capabilities, its weapons that could crack planets, its shields that could withstand the birth of stars, its engines that could fold space-time like origami. The ship will give you power beyond imagination, the Guardian warned, but power corrupts, especially when faced with something that threatens everything you hold dear. Remember who you are, Maya-chan. Remember why you are here. The ship entered the labyrinth, and immediately Maya understood why it was so dangerous. Reality became fluid, showing her not just what was, but what could be, what had been, and what should never be allowed to exist. She saw versions of herself where she had never found the artifact, where she had given up after being rejected by the Bloodline Hall, where she had used the ship's power for personal gain instead of the greater good. In one particularly disturbing vision, she saw herself as ruler of a vast human empire, having used precursor technology to conquer half the galaxy. The humans in that reality were strong, but they had become everything the Galactic Council claimed they were: violent, greedy, and destructive. She watched alternate Maya sitting on a throne made from the bones of her enemies, drunk on power and deaf to the suffering she had caused. Tempting, isn't it? A voice whispered in her mind, but it wasn't the Guardian's voice. This was something else, something dark and seductive. You could be so much more than what you are. You could give humanity everything it deserves. All you have to do is take it. Maya gritted her teeth and pushed the vision away, focusing on piloting the ship deeper into the labyrinth. But the whispers continued, showing her vision after vision of power and dominion. She saw herself commanding fleets of precursor warships, reducing the Galactic Council to ash, establishing a new order with humanity at its apex. The worst part was that the visions weren't entirely wrong. Humanity did deserve better than what it had been given. The Galactic Council was corrupt and oppressive. With the power at her disposal, Maya could fix so many problems, could give her species the respect and resources they had been denied. But she remembered the Guardian's words about the precursors being gardeners of possibility. They didn't impose their will on others. They created opportunities for growth. The dark path the visions showed wasn't growth. It was just another form of tyranny, no matter how justified it might seem. The ship suddenly shuddered, and Maya realized they had reached the center of the labyrinth. Before them hung a structure that defied description, part space station, part fortress, part prison. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, radiating power that made the hair on Maya's arm stand on end. The shadow waits within, the Guardian said, its voice now tinged with something that might have been fear. It has been alone for so long that madness has become its only companion. It will try to convince you that its way is the only way, that power and dominion are the natural rights of the strong. Do not listen. Maya guided the Eternal Vigil toward the structure's docking bay. As they approached, she could feel something vast and malevolent stirring within, awakening after eons of slumber. The pressure of its attention was almost unbearable, like standing under the gaze of a dying star. The docking was completed automatically, and Maya found herself standing before an airlock that led into the structure's heart. The Guardian materialized beside her, but she could see that even its incredible power was diminished here, in this place of pure corruption. "I have to go in alone, don't I?" Maya asked. "The trial is yours to face. I can accompany you, but I cannot fight your battles or make your choices. The Shadow will know if anyone else acts on your behalf." Maya nodded and stepped through the airlock. The corridor beyond was eerily similar to the Bloodline Hall, but where that place had felt ancient and dormant, this felt alive and hungry. The walls pulsed with a sickly light, and she could hear something that might have been breathing echoing from the depths. She found the Shadow in what had once been a throne room. It sat on a chair of twisted metal and bone, a figure that was unmistakably precursor but horribly wrong. Where the Guardian was made of noble obsidian and starlight, the Shadow was all sharp angles and consuming darkness. Its eyes were not stars but black holes, drawing in light and hope and leaving nothing behind. "So," the Shadow said, its voice like grinding stone, "another comes seeking the inheritance. How amusing. Do you know how many have stood where you stand now? How many have claimed they would be different, better, wiser than those who came before?" Maya stood her ground, though every instinct screamed at her to run. "I'm not here to claim anything. I'm here to prove myself worthy." The Shadow laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Worthy? Child, I am the last true precursor, the only one who understood what we really were. We were gods among insects, shapers of reality itself, and my pathetic siblings chose to throw it all away, to scatter our essence among lesser beings in the hope that they might somehow prove worthy of our gifts." The Shadow rose from its throne, and Maya saw that it was easily twice the size of the Guardian, its form crackling with barely contained power. "I have watched for eons as civilization after civilization has risen and fallen. I have seen species gifted with our knowledge destroy themselves with it. I have watched the very beings my siblings sought to elevate prove again and again that they are nothing but animals dressed in the trappings of intelligence." Maya felt the weight of the Shadow's attention like a physical force. "Then why are you still here? If you believe that so strongly, why haven't you just destroyed everything and been done with it?" "Because," the Shadow hissed, leaning closer, "I have been waiting for one who would truly understand. One who would see that the only way to bring order to this chaotic galaxy is through strength, through dominion, through the iron will of those born to rule." The Shadow gestured, and suddenly Maya could see everything. Every human colony struggling to survive, every injustice committed by the Galactic Council, every slight and humiliation her species had endured. She saw human children dying of diseases that could be cured with precursor medical technology. She saw brilliant human scientists relegated to menial work because of their species' low status. She saw the slow, systematic degradation of human potential under the weight of alien oppression. "Look at what they have done to your people," the Shadow whispered. "Look at what they continue to do while you waste time with trials and tests. You have the power to end their suffering right now. You have the ship. You have access to technologies beyond their comprehension. You could sweep away their oppressors in Esta." The Shadow's rage transformed the throne room into a battlefield of twisted reality. The walls melted and reformed, showing visions of countless conflicts across galactic history. Maya found herself standing in the middle of a cosmic storm of pure malevolence, with only her will and the artifact's warm light to anchor her to who she was. "You want to see what your mercy will accomplish?" the Shadow screamed, its form growing larger and more terrible with each word. "Let me show you the truth." Reality around Maya shifted, and suddenly she was standing on the bridge of a human warship. But something was wrong. The crew members were moving in slow motion, their faces frozen in expressions of terror and confusion. Through the viewports she could see a massive alien fleet bearing down on them. "This is the future your compassion creates," the Shadow's voice echoed around her. "The Zephyrians you saved? The ones you helped make peace with those human miners? In 50 years their children will return, but not for friendship. They will come with weapons you helped them build from the asteroid wealth you guided them to. And they will remember that humans once had what they needed to survive." Maya watched in horror as the scene played out. The Zephyrian ships opened fire, Their weapons powered by technologies they had developed using resources from the asteroid field she had shown them. The human vessels, caught off guard by an attack from supposed allies, were systematically destroyed. You see? The shadow hissed. Your kindness becomes their strength. Your mercy becomes their weapon. This is why Dominion is the only answer. The strong must rule the weak, or the weak will eventually destroy the strong. But Maya forced herself to look closer at the vision. Something wasn't right about it. The details were too clean, too perfectly crafted to support the shadow's argument. This isn't real, she said firmly. This is just one possible future among thousands. You're showing me only the darkest path. The shadow's laughter was like breaking crystal. Reality is dark, child. Hope is the lie we tell ourselves to make existence bearable. I have seen every civilization follow the same pattern. They rise through cooperation and compassion, reach their peak, then fall when those virtues become weaknesses that others exploit. The scene changed again. Now Maya stood in the ruins of the research station where Dr. Kim's team had been working. But in this vision, the researchers hadn't evacuated in time. Their bodies lay scattered among the wreckage, casualties of the explosion Maya had failed to prevent. And here we see the result of your wisdom. The shadow continued. You chose to save the technology rather than warn them directly. Your adherence to some noble principle of non-interference cost them their lives. How many more will die because you refuse to take decisive action? Maya felt tears running down her cheeks as she looked at the bodies of people she had tried to save. But again, something felt wrong about the vision. She reached out with senses that were becoming increasingly acute, and felt the falseness underlying the scene. These aren't real either, she said, though her voice shook with emotion. You're creating false futures to justify your own choices. You're showing me scenarios designed to make me doubt myself. Am I? The shadow moved closer, its presence like a crushing weight. Or am I simply showing you what you refuse to see? You want to believe that there is some perfect path, some way to navigate the complexities of existence without causing harm. But there is no such path, Maya Chen. Every choice you make will create suffering somewhere. Every act of mercy will enable future cruelty. Every moment of compassion will be repaid with betrayal. The visions came faster now, each one more terrible than the last. Maya saw the colonists she had saved from radiation poisoning being enslaved by pirates who tracked them to their new world. She watched the Galactic Council use her interference as evidence that humans were developing dangerous technologies, leading to even harsher restrictions on her species. She witnessed every good deed she had ever done, twisted into something that caused more harm than help. The weight of it all threatened to crush her spirit. The shadow was right about one thing. Every choice did have consequences, and some of those consequences would inevitably cause suffering. How could she justify making decisions that affected millions of lives when she couldn't predict all the outcomes? But then she heard another voice, soft and warm and infinitely patient. The Guardian was speaking, not aloud but directly to her mind, its words cutting through the shadow's assault. Do not let it convince you that action and inaction are equivalent, the Guardian whispered. Yes, every choice has consequences, but refusing to choose is also a choice, and it guarantees that those with cruel intentions will act without opposition. The precursors understood this. They accepted the responsibility of acting despite incomplete knowledge because the alternative was to let darkness go unchallenged. Maya straightened, feeling strength flow back into her limbs. You're wrong, she said to the shadow. You're not showing me the truth. You're showing me your own fears. The shadow recoiled as if struck. What did you say? You've been alone here for so long that you've forgotten what it means to be connected to others. You've convinced yourself that your isolation was wisdom, that your refusal to act was strength. But really, you were just afraid of being hurt again. Maya began to walk toward the shadow, and with each step the false visions cracked and began to fade. The precursors who became the Guardian chose to accept responsibility despite the risk. They chose to help others grow even though some of that growth might lead to conflict. But you chose safety. You chose certainty. You chose to hide here where you couldn't be hurt or disappointed or betrayed. No! The shadow's roar shook the entire structure. Its form began to shift and writhe, becoming less humanoid and more like a living storm of rage and despair. I chose wisdom. I chose to see reality as it truly is. You chose fear, Maya said simply. And you've been trying to justify that choice ever since. The shadow lashed out with tendrils of pure destructive force. Maya felt the artifact in her hand respond, creating a barrier of golden light that absorbed the attack. But she could feel the shadow's immense power pressing against her defenses, threatening to overwhelm her. "Even if you're right," the shadow snarled, "what difference does it make? You cannot defeat me through words alone. I am everything the precursors could have been. Pure will, unlimited power, absolute dominion. I am what you could become if you would just embrace the truth of your superiority." Maya felt the temptation in those words. The power was right there, waiting for her to claim it. She could feel the eternal vigil responding to her need, offering her access to weapons that could unmake the shadow entirely. It would be so easy to simply destroy this obstacle and claim the inheritance she had earned. But that was exactly the trap the shadow had set. It wanted her to use power to solve this problem, because that would prove its point. It would show that when faced with true opposition, even the most compassionate person would resort to dominion. Instead, Maya did something the shadow never expected. She lowered her defenses. "I'm not going to fight you," she said, letting the golden barrier fade away. "I'm not going to try to defeat you or destroy you or prove that I'm stronger than you are." The shadow's attack faltered in confusion. What are you doing?" "I'm offering you something you've never had," Maya replied, stepping closer to the roiling mass of darkness and rage. "I'm offering you a choice that isn't based on fear." She reached out with one hand toward the shadow, knowing that its touch could unmake her entirely. "You've been alone for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to be connected to others. You've been afraid for so long that you've forgotten what it means to hope, but it's not too late. You could choose differently." The shadow's form wavered, and for just a moment, Maya caught a glimpse of what it had been before eons of isolation had twisted it into this thing of pure malevolence. She saw a being much like the Guardian, noble and powerful and deeply, profoundly lonely. "You don't understand," the shadow whispered, its voice now carrying notes of pain rather than rage. "I have seen so much suffering, so much waste, so many failures. How can you ask me to hope when I know how it will all end?" "Because," Maya said gently, "the ending isn't what matters. What matters is what we choose to do with the time we have." The precursors knew they were dying, but they chose to plant seeds of possibility anyway. They chose to believe that maybe, just maybe, something beautiful could grow from their sacrifice. The shadow was shrinking now, its form becoming more coherent and less chaotic. Maya could see the ancient being within struggling with concepts it had rejected eons ago. Hope. Trust. The possibility that its long vigil might have been wrong. "But what if you fail?" the shadow asked, its voice now barely a whisper. "What if your compassion leads to disaster? What if your mercy enables cruelty? What if everything I've feared comes to pass?" Maya smiled, and in that smile was all the warmth and determination that had brought her this far. "Then I'll deal with those consequences when they come, but I won't let fear of possible futures prevent me from doing what I know is right in the present." The shadow stared at her outstretched hand for a long moment. Then slowly it began to reach toward her. I don't remember how to hope," it whispered. "That's okay," Maya replied. When the light faded, Maya found herself back in the Bloodline Hall's courtyard, but everything had changed. The obsidian doors now stood open, revealing corridors that seemed to stretch into infinity. The shadow was gone, but in its place stood another figure, still recognizably precursor, but no longer twisted by eons of isolation and fear. "Thank you," the being said, its voice carrying a peace that hadn't been there before. "I had forgotten that redemption was possible. I choose to sleep now, to rest and let go of the anger I have carried for so long. But before I go, know that you have passed the trial of courage in the most perfect way possible. You faced not just danger, but the temptation to solve problems through force, and you chose a better path." The redeemed precursor began to fade, becoming translucent as it finally allowed itself to let go of the pain that had sustained it for millennia. The final trial awaits you within the hall. But know this, what you face next will be harder than anything you have experienced so far. Compassion is easy when shown to those who deserve it. True compassion is tested when extended to those who do not. As the figure vanished completely, the Guardian materialized beside Maya. Its stellar eyes were bright with something that might have been pride. "You have done something I thought impossible," it said. "You have shown that even the deepest corruption can be healed through understanding and acceptance." But the Redeemed One spoke truly. Your final test will challenge you in ways you cannot imagine. Maya looked at the open doors of the Bloodline Hall, feeling a mixture of anticipation and dread. What exactly is the trial of compassion? It is a test of your willingness to sacrifice for others, even when those others are your enemies. You will be faced with a choice that will determine not just your own fate, but the fate of your entire species. And the choice will require you to show mercy to those who have shown none to humanity. They walked together through the massive doorway into the hall proper. Maya gasped at what she saw. The interior was vast beyond comprehension, with soaring ceilings that seemed to reach into the stars themselves. The walls were covered in flowing script that told the history of the galaxy, from its earliest days to prophecies of possible futures. At the center of the great hall stood a crystalline structure that pulsed with the same warm light as Maya's artifact. The heart of the hall, the Guardian explained. Within it lies the accumulated knowledge and power of the precursor civilization. Technologies that could transform matter and energy at will, sciences that could bend space and time, understanding that could unlock the fundamental forces that govern reality itself. Maya approached the crystal structure slowly, feeling its power calling to her. But as she got closer, she became aware of other presences in the hall. Figures began to materialize from the shadows, beings of various species, all of them radiating hostility and fear. The Galactic Council, Maya breathed, recognizing several of the figures despite having never seen them in person. There was Executor Vex the Chronari, who had nearly captured Dr. Kim's research team. Beside him stood High Arbitrator Zeltar of the Aquatic Depths, whose species controlled most of the galaxy's water-rich worlds. Council Prime Morduk of the Crystalline Resonance commanded the center of the group, its faceted form refracting light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Maya Chen of the Human Colony Worlds, Council Prime Morduk spoke, its voice like breaking ice. We have been monitoring your activities. Your interference in galactic affairs has been noted and found unacceptable. The Guardian stepped forward, its obsidian form radiating protective energy. These beings have no right to be here. The hall recognizes only those worthy of the precursor legacy. On the contrary, High Arbitrator Zeltar gurgled, its words bubbling through the water-filled helmet it wore. We have every right. We are the current stewards of galactic civilization. We cannot allow a primitive species to access technologies that could destabilize the order we have worked millennia to establish. Maya felt anger rising in her chest. These were the beings who had kept humanity down, who had treated her species like children at best and vermin at worst. They had denied humans access to advanced technologies, restricted them to the most dangerous and barren worlds, and systematically suppressed any attempt at advancement. You've spent centuries holding humanity back, Maya said, her voice tight with controlled fury. You've kept us weak and dependent while you divided up the galaxy among yourselves. What gives you the right to determine who is worthy of advancement? Executor Vex hissed, his reptilian features twisted in disgust. Your species is violent and unpredictable. You wage war among yourselves even as you beg for our protection. You destroy your own worlds through negligence and greed. You cannot be trusted with the power to reshape matter and energy. That's rich, coming from the species that glass-bombed the Meridian colonies when they tried to establish independence, Maya shot back. She turned to address the entire group. Every one of your species has a history of violence and conquest. The only difference is that you got access to advanced technology first. Council Prime Morduk's crystalline form chimed with harmonic discord. Enough debate. We are here to prevent a catastrophe. The power within that crystal could destroy entire star systems if misused. We cannot allow a human to claim it. The Guardian moved to place itself between Maya and the council members. You would have to destroy me first, and I am not easily unmade. That won't be necessary, Morduk replied. We have brought something that will resolve this situation. The air shimmered and more figures appeared. Maya's heart sank as she recognized them. Humans, but not just any humans. These were the leaders of the major human colonies, people she had grown up respecting and admiring. Maya, said Admiral Sarah Chen, the military commander of the Outer Rim colonies, you need to stop this. Whatever you think you're doing here, it's going to get us all killed. Maya stared at the woman who shared her last name, wondering if they were related. Admiral Chen? How did you get here? The council brought us, explained Dr. James Morrison, the head of the Human Colonial Assembly. They showed us what you've been doing, the technologies you've been accessing. Maya, they're offering us a deal, full membership in the Galactic Council, access to their trade networks, protection for our colonies. All we have to do is convince you to walk away from this. Maya felt the bottom drop out of her world. You're taking their side? We're taking humanity's side, Admiral Chen replied firmly. Look, I understand the appeal of what you found here. But the Council is right about one thing. This kind of power is dangerous, and even if you could handle it responsibly, what happens when other humans get access to it? What happens when people like the Terran Liberation Front get their hands on weapons that can crack planets? Maya knew the Terran Liberation Front, a radical human faction that advocated for violent resistance against the Galactic Council. They had carried out several terrorist attacks against alien installations, giving the Council convenient examples of human violence to point to whenever the question of human advancement came up. Besides, Dr. Morrison added, the Council's offer is everything we've been working toward for generations. Full citizenship, equal representation, access to the galactic economy. We'd be fools to throw it away for the sake of some ancient legacy that might not even be real. High Arbitrator Zeltar bubbled with what might have been amusement. You see? Even your own species recognizes the wisdom of our position. Abandon this foolish quest, Maya Chen. Take the partnership we offer. It is more than your species has ever been offered before. Maya looked around the group of human leaders, seeing fear and hope and desperation in their faces. They genuinely believed they were doing the right thing for humanity. The Council's offer was tempting, immediate relief from the hardships that had defined human existence for centuries. But Maya could see what the others couldn't. The Council members were lying. Not about the immediate benefits they were offering, but about their long-term intentions. She could read it in their body language, in the subtle harmonics of their communication, in the way they positioned themselves around the human delegation. The Council had no intention of honoring their agreement. They would take whatever concessions they could get from the humans, then find excuses to withdraw their support. Maybe not immediately. They might maintain the fiction for a few years or even decades. But eventually, humanity would find itself back where it started, only with even less hope of ever changing their situation. The Guardian moved closer to Maya, its voice speaking directly into her mind. This is the test. Will you sacrifice your own desires for the good of your species? Will you accept what appears to be a reasonable compromise even knowing it is false? Or will you choose the harder path, knowing that it might cost you everything? Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of decision pressing down on her. If she walked away now, the human leaders would go back to their colonies believing they had won a great victory. The Council would slowly strangle humanity's advancement while maintaining the pretense of partnership. Her species would survive, but they would never be truly free. If she claimed the precursor inheritance, she would have the power to break the Council's grip on the galaxy. But she would also be proving their point about humans being danger.